Hello, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making French onion soup. This is a nice little recipe that my mother brought back with her from France. She and my father lived there after the World War, the Second World War. Her housekeeper taught her this recipe, and she just handed it down to her children. I have been making this for years. It is a fabulous recipe. If you like French onion soup, if your guests like French onion soup, I guarantee you they're going to like this recipe. It's very easy to do. Now what we have is some beef broth. If you do not have fresh beef broth, please do not use bouillon. That is way too salty. It will not make a good soup. Use a canned beef broth and it'll be just as good. Now, use some red onions. You can use yellow also, but make sure it's a sweet onion. And then some garlic. Salt, cayenne, black pepper, red wine, olive oil, some bread. We're going to toast this and use it on top of the soup after it is cooked. And then we'll top that, of course, with some Swiss cheese that's been shredded. And then we will put it under a broiler and melt the Swiss cheese over the bread, making it a little bit bubbly on top. At that point, it's ready to eat. So, I'll take you through this step by step, how to make this wonderful soup. The next thing we're going to do is a little bit of chopping on these onions and the garlic. We'll see you at the cutting board. Welcome back to my kitchen. Okay, I have prepared the onions by removing the outer layer and the ends. We're going to cut those up, put them in the pan here in just a moment. On garlic, sometimes, you know, there's different methods people use to get that paper off the outside of garlic, the husk off of the garlic. And everybody seems to fight this in different ways. Sometimes it can really stick on there. What I like to do is I'll just simply grip it nice and tight and give it a couple of twists. Okay? Not hard enough to break the core, but just hard enough to loosen the paper. You see how that comes off of there? That's nice, isn't it? Okay. I will always cut the scab off of the end of this. I do not mince that scab up and put it in food. Nobody wants to get that in their mouth. So go ahead and remove it. Okay? Then we can take care of our garlic by simply crushing it and mincing it. Okay. Now if you're wondering what I'm doing here, I'm putting weight on the front of my knife and I'm rocking it up and back this way. So it's this motion, a little pressure here. I pull my thumb underneath so I won't hit it. We can mince garlic nice and quick this way, okay? This is something that'll just take you a little bit of time to get used to. And once you're used to it, you'll have it up and running nice and quick. Now, we've almost got our garlic ready there. Let's run that through the ladle again. Okay. We've got us some garlic ready to put in our soup. Nice. Okay. Now our onions. I'm going to have to slice those. I'm going to start by halving this. I'm going to turn it on its side. Okay? Half of each half. That way you've quartered them. Then to cut your slices to go in your pan, simple cross cuts, and they're ready to go on in there. Okay, do that again. cross cuts. Ready to go in that pan. Now, again, I stress the importance of a very sharp knife. You don't want to fight cutting through something. If you're fighting it, you're more likely to slip and stab yourself or cut yourself. If your knife is good and sharp, it will slide easily through the food and there will be no problems. Almost got enough onions for a couple of big bowls of French onion soup. This is one of my favorites. Well, knife slipped on me a little bit. Now once you get used to using a knife a lot like that, it's not a problem. Let's put these on the stove and have them up and cooking. Okay, I've just got my onions on the heat. Let's put in some olive oil in there. We're going to fry these up. Okay. Now what I want to do is fry these until they are nice and soft and just a little bit of brown on the edges. We call that caramelizing an onion. Alright, and it's going to make them good and sweet. That is the exact way that you want to do this dish. Now, the original recipe that my mother taught me and that she was taught uses red onions. Okay, so that's exactly what I'm doing here. Now, I have made this plenty of times with yellow onions. It tastes wonderful that way. So, give it a try both ways. I think you'll be surprised. One of the two is really going to stand out for you. Sometimes I like this red because it seems to provide a little more oniony flavor. So, here we have it. We're going to cook that down, and what it is, I'm going to show you what it looks like then. Welcome back. Okay, it has been about 15 minutes. Now, I started these onions at about, or when I started these onions about 15 minutes ago, I started them on high. I cooked them for about 10 minutes that way. Then I've reduced the heat to about a medium high, and I finished cooking it there. And if you look at the bottom of the pan, you see that brown buildup? That's exactly what we're looking for. See how the onions are brown on the edges? And they turn nice and limp. Okay, that's exactly what we're looking for this dish. Do not undercook these onions. They need to be sweet and they need to be soft, okay? This is one of the few vegetables I'm going to say, few dishes rather, that I'm going to say cook this vegetable nice and soft. Because if you don't, well, who wants to get a nice firm onion in their French onion soup? That's not fun. That's not tasty, okay? So don't do that. Now, I'm about to put in my beef broth. So let's go ahead and pour that in there. And then we're going to put some wine in this. Add in the rest of our seasonings. Bring it to a boil, and I'm going to boil it for about 45 minutes. Don't forget the garlic. That was about 2 cloves. Now, if you need to know how much beef broth that is, that was a little over 2 cups, about 2.5 cups. A can and a half to 2 cans of beef broth would work for you for this. If you want to do 1 can and to thin it a bit with some water, it'll cook down. That'll make it nice. Now, here we're going to put in a little bit of red wine. See that? That was a little bit. Now, we have a red dish. So with a red dish, we're going to want some red spice. An easy way to remember that, isn't it? I want to put in about, a quarter to half a teaspoon of cayenne. Now you want to do that to taste. Start with a little bit, add just a little more until you're used to it and you know exactly how much you want. Put some black pepper in this. Cooking will make a good flavor. And a little bit of salt. There we go. Now, I've just got to bring this to a boil. I'm going to let it simmer for about 45 minutes. Once I do, all of that fond on the bottom of the pan is now loosening up. and that adds flavor. That brown on the bottom of the pan, that's what we call a fond. That just makes this dish really rich, really full of flavor. It is not bitter. It is sweet when you cook onions that way, and that buildup on the bottom of the pan is also sweet. It's a caramelized sugar, actually. So, this wonderful dish will be ready to eat in 45 minutes. I'll see you then. Alright, there we have it. This is all cooked up. It's been 45 minutes in the simmer. Now if you'll look at this broth, this is a nice reddish brown colored broth. We have the red onion in there. It has a lot of color to it. And then of course we're about to put some bread on top. Now normally when you top this type of soup, you top it with some slices of a French baguette that have been toasted. Usually one or two of those on top with some sprinkles. Some people use croutons. There isn't one right and one wrong. There's just different ways of doing it. Now this time I decided to use a 9-grain bread. I want to be a little healthier, make this a little more interesting, so I've gone with a granary type bread. So I'm going to put this all together with soup on the bottom, a little bread on top. We're going to put some cheese on it. I'll bake it up and then we'll show you what that looks like when it's finished. There we go. I've just pulled that out of the broiler. It's a nice, beautiful bowl of French onion soup. Now, some people believe that French onion soup should be done with croutons so that you don't have to break through this hard crust on top. Well, I disagree. The hard crust on top is part of the experience of eating this type of soup. So give it a try that way. And good eating.